Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Juggyfroot, a giving voice to values case. My name is Spencer Osburn, and it's my pleasure to be your guide through this ethical dilemma today. The accountant that we follow through this case is named Ricardo. Ricardo is the managing partner of an office for Dezillo LLP, an audit firm that audits Juggyfroot. Juggyfroot is a publicly traded manufacturer that has some interesting ideas about what constitutes good accounting practices. Juggyfroot has asked Ricardo and his team to allow it to reclassify some of its securities from trading to available for sale when there is no GAAP basis for this reclassification. They want to take an unrealized gain from the income statement and put it into equity, thereby making the company look better when it applies for a loan in the near future. Ricardo is not happy with this treatment and doesn't want to approve it. But he is under pressure from his audit review partners, Ethel and Fred, who think he should go along with what the client wants. Further, Ricardo has personal interaction with Norman Bates, not the serial killer, but the CEO of Juggyfroot. Norman says that because Ricardo has allowed some inappropriate revenue recognition things to go through in the past, that he should be comfortable with the reclassification. Further, Norman is happy to take Juggyfroot's business elsewhere if Juggyfroot doesn't get the treatment that Norman wants. Norman also says, who knows, maybe the company will wait longer than a year to sell the securities. There are three arguments that Ricardo needs to be able to counter when he next meets with Norman. The first is that he has to do whatever Norman wants because he did so previously. The second is that there is a GAAP basis for the reclassification based off Norman's statement that the company might hold the securities for more than a year. The third is that Juggyfroot can get away with it. So let's talk about the stakeholders here and what they have to lose. For Dezillo, it might lose the Juggyfroot account if Ricardo sticks to his principles. For Juggyfroot, it might not be able to get the loan that it wants if Ricardo sticks to his principles. For both Dezillo and Juggyfroot, if the treatment goes through like Norman wants, then they might open themselves up to legal action, both civil against their companies and also criminal against the executives and accountants that allowed the treatment to go through. And for Ricardo himself, if he allows the treatment to go through, he might open himself up to legal action. But if he doesn't allow it to go through, then he might handicap his progression and reputation inside his own company. There are a couple things that Ricardo can use as levers of influence in his next discussion with Norman Bates. The first thing that he can tell Norman is that audit firms study their clients before they take them on, including speaking with their previous auditors. This may make it harder for Norman to find another auditor willing to take him on. Second, he can tell Norman that management is responsible for the financials and that Norman could be in a lot of personal legal trouble if he goes through the reclassification. Third, he can threaten to go to the SEC and potentially get Juggyfroot in trouble for the reclassification if they go through with it. And fourth, he can tell Norman that it's unlikely he'll be able to get away with the reclassification because it's a bigger deal than trying to just recognize revenue in different periods, because this loss won't show up in the income statement altogether. If Bates keeps trying to rationalize the reclassification, Ricardo needs to bring the conversation back to potential legal action against Bates and Juggyfroot, because they could be in a lot of legal trouble if they go through with their plan. Further, he needs to get Ethel and Fred on his side, because if he's in trouble at work and potentially gets taken off the audit or fired for being disruptive, then he's not going to be able to do any good. He needs to tell Ethel and Fred that Juggyfroot is not worth the potential loss of reputation and money that might occur if they go through with his bad treatment. Further, he needs to have these conversations at work with people that agree with him and back up his position, like his subordinate Lucy. And it's also good to have witnesses when these sensitive conversations are happening for your own legal protection. So that was Juggyfroot. Thanks for coming along, and this is Spencer Osburn saying, be ethical.